When you were a kid, did you ever do anything that was kind of different or weird? I remember growing up and I had these group of friends, we'd always make these pack arrangements, and we were like, hey, we're gonna partner together and we're gonna go do this or go do that, and nobody can chicken out, because we all gotta either jump this jump on our bikes or go do this, and we made all these pack arrangements. Well, we always solidified those pack arrangements with this. You'd look at your hand and you'd spit in your hand and you'd shake each other's hand. I don't know if you ever did anything weird like that growing up, but I just always remember thinking now as an adult, man, that's disgusting. Why would we do such gross things? But my devotion this week, I noticed something, that there's another arrangement, another pact that happened. And this pact we call a covenant. And this in the Bible was a covenant between God and man. Just like I made an arrangement with my friends and sealed it with spitting in the hand and shaking each other's hands, God also made an arrangement with us. And that is a covenant. Now, what is a covenant? A covenant is simply this, a contract or agreement between two parties. And in the Old Testament, they would literally call it cutting a covenant. And what they would do is they take these animals and they would literally cut them in half and lay half on one side, half on the other. And then the parties would walk through them. And in essence, we're saying, let's make this agreement. And if we break this agreement, let it happen to us what happened to these animals. So it was a life bond. It was a covenant that they made with each other. Well, in the Old Testament, which you could also say Old Covenant, there was multiple covenants that God made with man and himself. The first one, of course, is the covenant with Adam, and then you have like the covenant with Noah after the flood, you read the rainbow, and then you also had the covenant with Abraham, and that's one of the covenants we read this week. And then you also had the covenant with Moses, which was the law, and then you also had the covenant with David, and so you had all these different covenants in the Old Bible, in the Old Testament, the Bible, and God made these arrangements with man. But unfortunately, something happened. See, God made these arrangements with man to keep man from doing what was wrong. But what ended up happening with like the Mosaic covenant, this was the laws of God. And what happened was man broke those laws. I broke those laws. I look at the 10 Commandments and I go, man, I've lied before. I've broken my agreements before. I've coveted before. I've done some of the things that the 10 Commandments describes as wrong. And so I broke God's covenant, and in the Bible, we read in Jeremiah yesterday that when you break the covenant, basically you're saying, what happened to those animals happened to me. And it was like this death penalty. Well, all of history, no one was able to keep the covenant with God. No one was able to stay pure. We all became tainted. We call that sin. Sin means missing the mark. And so we've all did what was wrong, except for one person. There was one man who came, and his name was Jesus. Jesus came and he actually fulfilled those covenants, those agreements between man and God. See, God looked down and knew that none of us humans could do it. So God himself became a man to fulfill the very covenant that he made with man, so that those blessings could be poured on us. And see, Jesus came and he said, okay, I fulfilled the law. I fulfilled the covenant between God and man, becoming a man himself. So in doing so, what he did do is he said, now I want to make a new covenant, a new agreement between man and God. And instead of the lives of animals being separated and having to walk through this new covenant like they did in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, we see that Jesus said this is the new covenant in his blood. So literally, he has given his own life to establish this new covenant. And he did that by going on a cross. See, all the wrongs that you and I have done, Jesus took those wrongs, all those sins, missing the mark, not living a life of perfection. And in doing so, Jesus took all the wrongs we did, because he that did no wrong took the wrongs that we did, and he went to a cross and he died. And he cut a new covenant in his blood this time. And this covenant was the covenant of love. See, this covenant is an amazing thing because if you think about it, all Jesus really asked us to do was to love God and love each other. And all the law, which is the old covenant, and the prophets rest on these two things. So the new covenant is an eternal covenant that Jesus did, the perfect human, and he cut the new covenant in his blood. And in doing so, he's just simply asked us to this: love God and love each other. I just want to say thank you for joining me for the Heart of Devotion. Have a good day, bud. God bless you.